Well. Looks like id Software decided to give players a new way to play the classic Doom series with Doom plus Doom 2, an enhanced and much more streamlined version that uses the well-known Kex engine provided by Nightdive Studios instead of the Unity engine used in the previous release. It also is now Boom compatible, allowing for a much wider selection of community WADs. Though currently the browser for this is pretty wild, as it seems just about anybody can upload whatever they want, meaning there is no verification as to whether or not you're downloading something of proven quality. But still, this is better than not having it at all. There is also the id Vault, a seemingly complete collection of cut material for the original Doom. I'm sure most casuals will find this, kinda neat. However, I, as well as much of the long-standing Doom community, we are stoked to see all of this come to light. They've also made everything seen here available for modders to use as they wish. All of this makes me feel just a little more comfortable that id hasn't completely fallen to corporate greed and is still pro-player and pro-modding. Oh, what a coincidence. They also released modding tools for Doom Eternal. Go figure. But with the praise, I also have to criticize. Personally, it doesn't seem as though the Kex engine is 100% accurate at replicating player movement. It seems there is either minute input lag or the player just stops too fast. Most casual players may not ever notice this, but the seasoned player will. I thought I might have been wrong about this and maybe it was just my settings, but no matter what I adjusted, I just never could get rid of this issue. I even posted about this in a pair of Doom groups, and sure enough, I am not the only one noticing this problem. There are also reports of enemy AI being buggy, graphical glitches, though some could just be normal vanilla goofiness, and monsters just dropping from ledges, of which I have encountered many times, and not because they were pushed off or anything. I also went ahead and tried it out on Xbox Series X after downloading it from Game Pass. It seemed to play much more smoothly with a controller in hand, which kind of makes me think this port is aimed primarily at console players. But that is as deep as I want to get into this. I'll leave the deep dives to my contemporaries like Civi, G-Man Lives, and definitely Digital Foundry, who I am certain are already working up a video. Now, for the main reason I am making this video. Legacy of Rust is a brand new, official expansion for Doom 2, the first since No Rest for the Living, I believe, going all the way back to 2010. LOR, which I will be calling it moving forward, stands out though for a handful of reasons, namely including many of those cut pieces of content mentioned earlier in the id Vault. So for the first time in a very long time, Classic Doom has official new monsters and weapons. The expansion was developed by members of id, Nightdive, and Machine Games, but special attention needs to be directed towards the project lead, Doom community's very own Xaser, whom I'm just now realizing is an employee at Nightdive. For those who don't know, Xaser is hailed as being among the upper echelon of Doom creation, having been involved with such projects as Back to Saturn X, Doom the Way id Did, The Adventures of Square, No End in Sight, Syringe, and his very own Dead series. All of these, with the exception of Square, are available for anyone to play through this new port. Now, as mentioned previously, I was having a hard time adapting to the new movement styling, so I instead played LOR using GZDoom by taking the WAD file called id1.wad and dropping it onto the GZDoom shortcut. Immediately, the movement and other issues vanished, so if you are a more seasoned keyboard and mouse player, I would recommend playing this way. You won't see the level start screen reminiscent of the first Doom, but everything else works as intended. That is so long as you play on default compatibility, as I found myself walking through railings and into inescapable pits, playing on any other comp level. My playthrough was done on Ultra Violence difficulty with pistol starts for each map. LOR consists of 2 7-map episodes with a secret level within each, making for 16 total maps. Now I first want to talk about the new inclusions, starting with the enemies. First is the Banshee, a flying explosive kamikaze type enemy. While the design is indeed cool, and I can tell it uses one of the faces from the Wall of Souls texture, its implementation within most battles renders it near pointless. Unless facing a group one-on-one, they are more of a threat to other monsters than they are to you, as most times they take a rogue pellet or fireball and just self-destruct within a demon cluster. They also don't have any rotation frames, meaning they are always looking towards the player, something I'm not a fan of seeing with any custom enemy. Next up is the Ghoul, a metallic flying skull with a weak electrified projectile, but typically encountered in groups. This is the alpha design for the Lost Soul before being scrapped for the far more iconic version we got instead. This isn't the first time I'm seeing this enemy, as other creators have used its likeness before, but once again, I'm just not that impressed with it. It's a weaker Lost Soul with an annoying projectile. I don't know, maybe if their movement was a little faster, making them more of a priority when encountered, I'd probably like them a little more. But most times I was happy whenever they weren't on screen. Next, we have the Shock Trooper, a former Marine armed with a plasma gun, hell-bent on making your run a living hell. Again, not the first time I've seen these guys, but compared to the last two, these dudes have a place within the battle scenario and can quickly increase the drama when encountered. I also particularly love the decapitation animation and death sound. Next is the Mindweaver. It's the spider mastermind, but with the same health pool as the Arachnotron. A bit more novelty than anything else. Next is the face of LOR, the Fasago, a tall winged demon that fastballs straight up fire at the player that also linger after collision. Functionally, they are Barons of Hell with a different projectile. The wings are also just for display, as they can't fly. They're okay. Then lastly, we have the Tyrant. No, not that one. This guy honestly looks very little like its modern counterpart, having its horns removed and laced with green circuitry. They function exactly like the Cyber Demon, only with a far smaller pool of health. Next, let's go over the new weapons, of which there are two. First is the plasma gun replacement, the Incinerator, a powerful flamethrower that was a lot of fun to use every time I got my hands on it. It requires fuel, of which there is little of at first. It also eats away at the fuel you already have, so be careful when using it. Then second is the BFG replacement, the Calamity Blade. Oh, I liked this one. It fires off a wave of fire, or energy, I'm not sure which, seeing as it uses fuel as well, or can be charged by holding down the fire button for a much more devastating shot. And just like the Incinerator, this was a lot of fun to use each time I picked it up, particularly during the final fight, but I'll save that discussion for the spoiler section. And just look at that sprite work. Chef's kiss. But that isn't the only thing worthy of a Doomer chef's lips. The level architecture and detailing is superb. Starting first within a tech base, the player will soon come to an excellently integrated portal that leads to quite the adventure through hellish landscapes. Notably, a dam where blood takes the place of water. The player has to navigate through the dam's control building in an effort to open the way to the exit, locked away behind one of the blood falls. Or you could also find your way to the top, wink wink. This is obviously only one example, but every level feels unique and holds its own within the story LOR is telling. And to top it all off, Xaser provides one of the best soundtracks I've heard since maybe Boomer Beyond Vanilla. Oh, did I also forget to mention, Xaser is an accomplished composer as well? What a fella. Spanning multiple genres, you'll almost certainly hum along to most of these tunes as you rip and tear your way through the gorgeously detailed carnage. Alright, spoiler time. I will now discuss aspects of the final bits of lore. If you'd like to go in without knowing how it all ends, then skip to this time code here. 3, 2, 1, you've been warned. After plunging through the portal at the end of map 12, the Rack, the player finds themselves within a silo base surrounded by green sludge. Absolutely gorgeous architecture and texture work here. I loved walking through the first door to the beautiful spectacle of it all. After this is the final map, Brink, with a series of tiered arenas. First being surrounded by tyrants and a lone Cybe, of whom you can get into a rocket duel with the other tyrants as they do not recognize them as friendly. Once all the tyrants are eliminated, the floor descends into a series of mazes, which honestly impressed me. Integrated very well. Within are handfuls of Asago and soon Archvials, with fuel canisters dispersed all around. Surviving this leads to 3 rooms with missiles at the ready for launch. Thankfully, you acquire the Calamity Blade to take on the hordes of Asago and Archies. A challenging arena that will prove rather tricky for those less experienced, that's for sure. Then lastly, the player reaches the launch switch, but in a final desperate attempt to stop you, the room is flooded with tyrants, sending rockets flying everywhere. Fortunately, the missiles all around you provide just enough cover for you to survive. And once you have, throw the switch, open the portal, and find yourself right back to where you started in map 1. I really love map sets that have the player circling back to previous maps. It truly feels like a journey was made. And with that, flip the final switch and blow everything beyond the portal to smithereens. What an awesome way for lore to go out, and with challenging arenas. Sometimes final maps that just flood the area with monsters can be a little unimaginative, but have the level design chops to back it up, and you can make some excellent final fights like this. Overall, I found lore to be an exciting journey through a hellish realm with gorgeous architecture, fun challenging encounters, and an excellent soundtrack to go along with it. I didn't care too much for some of the added monsters in the roster, but I feel it didn't take away from the overall experience. I did, however, notice one glaring issue and one questionable choice, both appearing in map 3. By the end of map 3, on 2 different runs, there were still monsters within these teleport rooms, just sitting and idle, leaving me with less than 100% kills both times. I'm not sure if I just didn't cross a certain line or what. Maybe someone can shed some light on what's happening there. The other thing is map 3 has no secrets, which I find odd as every map has excellent secret placement with abundance. I'm just not sure why map 3 doesn't. It certainly has the design work to facilitate them. But if those are really my only complaints regarding lore, then a big congratulations to id, Nightdive, and Machine Games for an outstanding official expansion for Doom 2. I highly recommend anybody who has the new port plays this. Though if you are a bit fresh to Doom, perhaps play the first 2 before hopping in. This one is a doozy. And thank you all so much for watching. My next video was planned to be my long-awaited Doom 2 with only the Super Shotgun and Fists only challenge, but when id themselves put out new official content, I can't just sit idly by and not talk about it. Now, hopefully, no more distractions pop up. I can get this video I've toiled over for the better part of 2 months out and ready for you guys. I've had a blast creating it, and I'm sure you all will enjoy watching it as well. And if you are watching this and are new to Doom, or even a seasoned player, let me know if you'd like me to make recommendations of some excellent WODs to play. But until then, I've been Lagunatic, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.